What's up, everybody? Welcome back. We are here with some more NFL DFS picks and line of advice for DraftKings and FanDuel. This time for the Week 8 Thursday Night Football single game showdown slate between the Los Angeles Chargers and the Minnesota Vikings. In this video, we'll discuss the many injuries that impact tonight's slate. We'll see who our model at Occupy Fantasy is telling us are the best plays tonight. And then we'll talk about low risk, core plays, and lineup construction tips, plus strategies, angles, and tips to help you win the biggest prizes in tournaments that DraftKings and FanDuel have to offer. Welcome, I'm Brian Jester, co-founder here at Occupy Fantasy, single game $1 million winner, and lots of injuries, so let's get into it. And we'll start with the visiting Minnesota Vikings. And we'll start along the offensive line first and foremost. Again, we dive into these injuries on offensive line and on defense. They really impact the slate, and many DFS players do not account for them. Two offensive line injuries to be concerned about for Minnesota. Christian Darrisaw, their star left tackle, is officially questionable. And the reporting around Darrisaw is he played 69 snaps on Sunday. This is a short turnaround. And he needed some treatment on his knee after playing those 69 snaps. And while reporters and sources are saying there are no huge concerns, there's also no guarantee that he suits up tonight and can make the turnaround on a short week. It's to be determined. So we'll find out. They're going to put him through a pregame workout. We probably won't know his status until later this evening, around the time inactives come out. And on the same side, on the opposite side of the line, in fact, right tackle Brian O'Neill, same thing. Knee maintenance, he's also questionable. Now, oftentimes these guys won't practice much on a short week and they still go out and play. Let's monitor. If either O'Neill or especially Darrisaw are out tonight, we're going to downgrade the entire Minnesota offense. Now, in terms of positional players, you may have seen this on Twitter or if you've been reading the news about Minnesota. But Aaron Jones, who's been on injured reserve for a few weeks now with that hamstring injury, hasn't played since week 2. He returned to practice on Wednesday in a limited fashion. They opened his return to play window, 21-day window, to be activated from injured reserve. And normally, if you come back from a hamstring injury, and normally if you are limited, normally it takes a week, normally it takes a full practice to be ready to play. But head coach Kevin O'Connell said that Aaron Jones knows his body. We trust him to know his body. And we're opening the idea that he'll be ready to play Thursday night. Now, will this actually happen? I don't know. We'll know for sure at 4 p.m. Eastern if Aaron Jones, he has to be activated from injured reserve in order to be active and play tonight. So we'll know by the time transactions come out at 4 p.m. If he's back, expect a split workload with Jordan Mason, who's been running in his absence, and Xavier Scott, who's been the number 2 running back. He will basically not play much at all tonight. He's limited in his own fashion, questionable, but he is expected to play. And if Aaron Jones is back, Scott won't play much at all. And the way the pricing is set up, Mason 8,600, Jones 6,600. Jones becomes a more attractive play, but they will cannibalize each other's production, and neither will be that popular if both play. Now, if Aaron Jones doesn't play, we'll see Jordan Mason have a normal, regular ownership, and we'll see Xavier Scott get some ownership as well at $3,200. Anything else we need to talk about I guess we should talk about the starting quarterback position for Minnesota. J.J. McCarthy still not fully healthy with that ankle. Carson Wentz will draw another start tonight. He's 9K on DraftKings. Nothing more to say. Carson Wentz will start tonight at quarterback for the Vikings. J.J. McCarthy, it sounds like, will be the emergency number 3 quarterback. And finally, this won't matter much to many of you unless you're playing 150 max or mass multi-entering. C.J. Ham, the fullback, he is out tonight, and he's only played the last couple of weeks, and he's played 12 to 20% of the snaps. 12 to 20% of the snaps doesn't sound like much, but if we get other scrubs, 12 to 20% of the snaps or a few more snaps, that can raise their floor and their ceiling, their projection. And again, we're probably not playing many of these guys in smaller contests, really, if you're playing, and I don't even know 20 lineups, but probably 150 lineups. But we'll talk about that in the high-risk section when we talk about the low-owned players. Moving on to the Chargers. Almost the opposite of Minnesota. Their offensive line is getting healthier. Joe Alt, star left tackle, who's missed the last couple of weeks, he's expected to play tonight. Officially listed as questionable, but he told reporters in the locker room yesterday he is going to play. So that's a big boost to the Chargers' offensive line. They also will likely get back Trey Pipkins, their right tackle. So they've been playing without their left tackle, their right tackle, their guard, Mekhi Becton's been in and out. They could have their full week 1 offensive line tonight, which would be a massive boost to the Chargers' entire offense. And by the way, let's just see how this pans out, but you could just skip DFS and just bet the Chargers at -3 with a little bit of juice, and maybe that's the best bet tonight, with the Chargers getting healthier and the Vikings getting less healthy. Hassan Haskins, the running back for the Chargers, he's out tonight. Did not practice this week. Let's go to Haskins. By the way, just 3,400, but he's out. And the way the workload has been split, there was once their starting running back, Omarion Hampton, went down, there was a report that Haskins would be the lead back. Kamani Vidal completely outperformed him, and basically it's been a 65-35 split over the last 2 weeks in favor of Kamani Vidal. So with Haskins out, what happens? Because they have no other running backs on the roster. What they did last couple of weeks, they've called up Naheem Hines from the practice squad. You remember him from his Colts days? Actually, he has a different name now. It's not just Naheem Hines. It's Naheem Miller Hines. So, but he's played just one offensive snap each of the last 2 weeks. Mostly has been playing special teams. He'll see a few more snaps tonight, I imagine, but his role kind of overlaps with Vidal in terms of passing down work. What I think they'll do, they have 3 other running backs on the practice squad, and let's pull them up. They have Jarrett Patterson, who you've known if you played preseason DFS for sure, but he's also had some work in the regular season as well. Jarrett Patterson, formerly of the Commanders. They also have Amar Johnson. And they also have, who's the fourth running back here? I just want to make sure I get all the names correct. They also have, Travion Williams, formerly of the Cincinnati Bengals. He's not even in the DraftKings player pool. We expect Jarrett Patterson to get called up. He was with the team in preseason, was re-signed a couple of weeks ago. We expect Jarrett Patterson to get called up along with Naheem Hines. Monitor the 4 p.m. transactions. They could call up Amar Johnson. They could call up Travion Williams. We expect Jarrett Patterson. And Jarrett Patterson is called up. He fits the best role of early down, change of pace, mix it in, and he's minimum price on both sites. And he will get some work tonight if he's called up. Naeem Hines, probably more of a special teams guy, maybe a couple plays here and there, but it's going to be whoever's called up is going to be that change of pace and not Naeem Hines. So whether it's Jarrett Patterson, whether it's Travion Williams, whether it's Amar Johnson, we think it's going to be Patterson. 4 p.m. Eastern, we'll know for sure. All right, anything else for the injuries here? Free safety, Elijah Molden, missed last week. He's questionable. He could be back tonight. That would be a boost to the Chargers' passing offense. Again, tons of boost to the Chargers tonight. Lots of negatives against the Vikings. You see which direction this game is going, potentially. All right, let's talk about low-risk contests, 50-50s, double-ups, head-to-heads in DFS, where you just have to beat half the field to double your money. And we try to lock up all the scoring, playing both quarterbacks, both running backs. Now, if Aaron Jones is back, that muddies the Minnesota backfield situation. What we'll want to do is we'll play Justin Herbert at captain. We'll play Carson Wentz. We'll play Kamani Vidal, who is the lead back, is underpriced at $7,000. And then Jordan Mason and Aaron Jones, neither will be that popular if they're both back. So we'll probably want to fade this situation. Now, if Aaron Jones is out, we'll just slot in Jordan Mason. $4,900 left per player. Pricing is pretty soft. So what we can do is let's see here. So we can't play Justin Jefferson, obviously, but we could play kickers, defenses, and make it extremely easy to play that. Now, if Mason's out, we can either go one of 2 routes. We can play Jefferson, and we can punt maybe Jarrett Patterson, 200. What's that leave? 6,400. Doesn't allow us to do much. We could play Rondé Gatson. That's not too bad at all. And we could captain Jefferson if we wanted to. But if we don't want to go Jefferson and we want to play more of a mid-range route, we could go Gatson. We can go, who else we got here? Let's try McConkey. And then we could play a kicker and Will Reichert. So lots of ways to go. And it becomes a lot easier if Aaron Jones does play. And then we can fade the Minnesota running back situation in low-risk contests. Now we go over to FanDuel. It's basically the same thing. So it's Herbert at MVP. It's Carson Wentz. Jordan Mason, $10,600 over here. Aaron Jones cheaper at $8,200. Vidal, $8,800. So we play Vidal. That leaves $67 left per player. So we can go down. We could play Patterson here, by the way. Patterson's the minimum $1,000. What does that allow us to do, just to see? We could play Justin Jefferson, and then we could play, that doesn't really leave us too much here. That's not that great. Let's go more mid-range. We could play multiple kickers and defenses. Let's go Reichert and Dicker. We think both these guys will be extremely popular tonight. We can go with Hawkinson. Options here. But these are the 3 guys you want to get into your low-risk lineups tonight. If Aaron Jones is out, we can mix in Jordan Mason. Then we basically lock up all the scoring. $48.50 left per player. And then we can go down and we can make that work with who else down here? We could play Josh Oliver. We could play Patterson. Let's see if Patterson, if we fully punt that final position. $8,600. We could play Addison here. Rondé Gatson. Options. So it's extremely important to monitor the 4 p.m. elevations, the activations, and the inactives report at 6:50 p.m. Eastern tonight. So while I'm giving you a lot of advice in this video today, it will come down to pivoting and using the information, a bunch of if-thens, almost like an NBA DFS slate, which, by the way, if you're not already, if you do play NBA DFS, our guys are doing live videos here every single day on our YouTube channel. You may have seen the notifications. And absolutely crushed it yesterday. Tons of screenshots in our Discord. So if you're playing NBA DFS, make sure you check out the video later today here on the channel. All right, back to DraftKings. Let's get a water sip break, and we will discuss high-risk contests for FanDuel and DraftKings. All right, leagues, GPPs, satellites, you know the drill by now. Have to beat a lot of people to win a lot of money, and kind of buried the lead here. We do have one underperforming wide receiver on tonight's slate. It's Justin Jefferson. 11,800. Tons of air yards. If you look at his game logs here, look at the targets here, right? 10, 11, 11, 7, 6, 7. Just one touchdown the entire year. It doesn't take much of a complicated formula to figure out he probably should have scored more touchdowns than one so far this year. So Justin Jefferson lands on our underperforming wide receiver list. And just a week after, we had some incredible performances in our underperformers last week. Let's go to our model, and I'm gonna go back to last week's daily plug to show you who the underperforming wide receivers were and show you how incredible they were. So let's go down here. And by the way, if you're not a member, this is a clip of what you'll see in our main slate daily plug. Let's go down to receivers, and let's go with the underperformers. I mean, look at this. All right, so A.J. Brown, 2 touchdowns. Jerry Jeudy and Isaiah Bond, we warned people about the weather game. Io Manor didn't really perform well. Keenan Allen, 30 DraftKings points. And let's not forget about the Sunday morning Devontae Adams underperforming wide receiver who scored 3 touchdowns on that showdown slate. So underperformers have been off to a hot start here in 2025. Justin Jefferson will look to continue that tonight. He'll be one of the more popular captains, along with Justin Herbert, along with Carson Wentz on FanDuel, along with Kamani Vidal because he's a cheaper lead back. But Jefferson's a guy that we definitely want to get overweight on. Underperformers on showdown slates are cheat codes. They're print fests. Let's get Justin Jefferson to as many captain lineups as we can tonight. Now, as I said, the Chargers are getting healthier, but the field will also be building LA heavy just because of the values on the LA side, the way the offenses shake out. So just understand that even if you are building Los Angeles heavy, 4 Chargers in a lineup, maybe even 5 Chargers in a lineup, 3 Chargers with a Chargers captain, the field is doing that too. So if you do that, just make sure you're adding in 1 to 2 low-owned plays to get yourself different. Now, speaking of those low-owned plays, let's run through the list. And these can be guys you mix in 1 if you're in smaller contests, 2, maybe 3 if you're in the larger contests and you're playing large field GPPs. Let's go through them. So we start at the top. If Aaron Jones is in, we expect Jordan Mason and Aaron Jones to be low-owned. Maybe they won't get under that 20% mark that we look for, that we categorize as low-owned in Showdown, but they will certainly be much lower-owned than their counterparts priced around them. Mason will be much lower-owned than Carson Wentz. Aaron Jones will be much lower-owned than Kamani Vidal, for example. So one pivot to those guys can chop off 10 to 30% of ownership in your lineup. The defenses won't be that popular. Let's get this out of here. The kickers will be extremely popular tonight. As I said, pricing is soft. You can easily fit up the mid-range. There aren't many values we want to get to. So kickers will be popular in both Dicker and Reichert, which means Chargers and Vikings, they're not going to be like 5% owned, but they'll be under 20%. And they're good pivots away. Couple sacks, couple turnovers, especially if Minnesota is missing 1 or 2 of their offensive linemen. We want to get in the Chargers into our lineups. Next, we have everyone below the defense. That's crazy. I can't remember a time where we've had no values that stick out as 20, 30% owned. And that's because the pricing is super soft tonight. You can fit in basically whoever you want. And that makes it easy to play more mid-range guys, and you don't have to punt, which means the field will not be playing guys below the kickers and defenses. So we have Jalen Naylor. So we'll run through these guys. Jalen Naylor, 60 to 67% of the routes the last 2 games. He's an option. He scored 1 touchdown so far this year. But again, a guy who, if he catches a touchdown or gets a few more passes than expected, can outscore the kickers or defenses. So we like Jalen Naylor a lot. His teammate Adam Thielen, not nearly as attractive. Adam Thielen, $2,000 now, but his routes run have plummeted since Jordan Addison has returned. Thielen just 10 to 22% of the snaps. Absolutely sick trade to get him back in Minnesota at the start of the year for Minnesota. Glad they gave up some draft capital for that. On the Los Angeles side, in the receiver room, Trey Harris, we've seen his playing time bump up a lot. We look at his involvement over the last 2 weeks. He's up to 35% of the routes 2 weeks ago, 43% of the route last week, and that's with all 3 of the top wide receivers healthy. McConkey, Keenan Allen, Quentin Johnston. So Trey Harris is a guy that they're going to look to get more and more involved as the season goes on. And we've seen him 4+ fantasy points over the last couple of weeks. $3,000 it's a weird price range. We won't see him really have any ownership at all tonight. Next, let's talk about Darius Davis really quickly as we stick with the Chargers receivers. They basically have just been rotating in 4 receivers. Darius Davis has been a gadget player in years past, getting him jet sweeps and screens. They haven't really done that this year. Hasn't really been playing many snaps. Not a guy that we can look to punt with at $200. Instead, we'll look to Jarrett Patterson at $200. If he's called up, we will look to Miller Hines. Sorry, Naeem. He's also the minimum price. And just judging by what the industry is putting out so far, we think Jarrett Patterson, if he's caught up, will be much higher owned than Naeem Miller Hines. So maybe a pivot away. Again, neither one of these guys are going to be too popular just because you don't need to go there tonight. So these are really these cheaper guys. Maybe if you're playing small field, but really these are guys you're mixing into your large field, your 20 max, and your 150 max lineups. And if you're using our lineup builder or any optimizer, it's a great way to cap your exposure to each of these guys so you're not building too many stars and scrubs lineups. But, get overweight on a couple of these guys. That way, if this type of lineup construction is optimal, you'll have a few shots at it. Chargers have been mixing up their tight end rotations. I'm not really sure what they want to do, but they found out, well, at least some of us knew, that Oronde Gadsden's that guy. And Gadsden has been running 75% plus of the snaps over the last few weeks. Absolutely exploded at minimal ownership, 32 fantasy points last week against the Colts. He's going to continue to run as the tight end one. Tyler Conklin didn't play 2 weeks ago, got a couple snaps last week, vice versa, a couple snaps 2 weeks ago, didn't play last week. Will Dissly hasn't played much at all. Tucker Fisk, the fullback, he's been playing more than any of these other guys. And we look at the routes run. I mean, these are not guys we're looking to play with Gadsden evolving into that primary role. I mean, Conklin just 3 total snaps the last 2 weeks. Dissly and Fisk, handful of routes per game. Not really. I mean, even if they catch a touchdown, they're not guaranteed to be optimal because of their price tags and not needing a cheaper guy. So again, you can mix them in if you're building 150. You're not really sure we want to play Conklin, Dissly, or Fisk in anything less than that. We look at the Minnesota tight end situation. Josh Oliver, $2,400, and he's ran 9 to 11 routes each of the last 2 games. He would have to catch a touchdown, and we need all the studs to perform. So again, these guys are low owned for a reason. We don't necessarily need them tonight, but if it's a higher scoring game and Jefferson is the top player and underperforming wide receiver becomes the optimal captain, he's pretty expensive. Maybe we need a cheaper guy to fit in. That's a way that we'd want to get these guys into our lineup. All right, I think that covers most everything that we wanted to look at tonight. I do want to call out one more guy. Again, this is a guy maybe you play in 1 out of 150 lineups. Ben Urasek with CJ Ham out. Should see more snaps as a tight end 3 tonight. He ran 6 total routes the first 3 weeks of the season when CJ Ham was out. Just saying, just a guy we got to call out. In case he scores a touchdown, we can clip this for a YouTube short. But that'll do it for the video. Make sure you check out our daily plug, OccupyFantasy.com. That'll be up early this afternoon, and then it'll be updated once we get all the elevations and activations and pregame inactives are out. Again, it's going to be extremely important to be around for lock tonight. Not many showdown slates, we can say that, but this is one of the few that you want to check back for updates. We'll also update our Discord, obviously, as well, but you really want to check back for updates today because it will dramatically impact how you build lineups tonight. So you can build a couple slate groups today in our lineup builder and say, if Aaron Jones is in, do this. If Patterson's called up, do this. But there are a lot of moving parts. I would just prefer to wait until 4:30 and start building lineups. That's me. I understand not everyone can do that, but I think it's the best move tonight once we have all of the information. So for Occupy, I'm Brian. Thanks to everyone for listening. You'll see a video pop up how to build NFL Showdown lineups the right way. If you haven't already, or if you have, get a refresher. Watch that video next after you finish watching this. Good luck and enjoy tonight's Chargers and Vikings Showdown slate.